activities is mostly in the Middle East and the Arabic countries and the Central Africa and Northern Africa, where there's not much member at the moment. So we for sure have a lot to do to expand our activities. And of course, China and Russia are also very large country. We are working to get them on board. That means that they are something in occupational hygiene, and they come every year to many of our conferences, but they're not member yet. And we're just trying to be more members, to share more experience, and to get more of the knowledge of each of every country to share our practices. So when we talk about health and safety, of course, there's a various thing, and health and safety is, we always talk about them simultaneously, but in many cases, it's also taken separately. Typically, when we say occupational health is something that will give you a disease, when we talk at safety professional is something that you get injured by an accident. But as we can see on this slide, the biological hazard is already a subject that is part of our education when we work in occupational hygiene and a little bit in safety. But mostly occupational hygiene, we already have pretty good knowledge of biological hazard, although the complexity of a pandemic is something definitely different, which requires more partnership with many members to share the knowledge and talk about not just how to prevent exposure, but also how are all the impact of the epidemiological impact and toxicological impact from the dispersion of the spread in the illness. So this is something already we are covering, but we need to increase our knowledge in that. So if we look basically at the hierarchy of decision when we work in occupational hygiene, we've always been approaching that from the beginning, we should always start from the top of the pyramid, which means eliminate the hazard. So that's what many countries are working right now with the COVID, is to eliminate the virus. And the only way, well, there's many ways to do that. There's different strategies. Some has been very useful, some has been less effective, but typically is through isolation. So we've seen confinement being implemented in many countries, and this was used as elimination. So the more you stay home, the less you are exposed to others, the less you are likely to contaminate yourself or contaminate others. But this being said, this illness is not easy to fight because it's such a small particulate. The virus is about 1 million times smaller than air. So it's non-visible and it outnumbers us, as you know. So we have to be very careful with this potential exposure. So the second aspect that we are working on and that we've seen in many hospital and nursing homes and even in houses is about engineering controls. And most of the engineering controls will come with ventilation. So when you implement a good ventilation system, basically with extraction and filtration, you can definitely control the spread of the contamination inside a contaminated area. So we've seen in many hospitals and many nursing houses that they've created various areas within the same hospital. First, there is the triage or the screening, where it's done at the entrance of the hospital to prevent, at least from the arrival of the patient, you can control and prevent contamination of the nursing personnel and the other hospital employees. And and send this contaminated person immediately in the right areas. From that, you want to make sure that the people working in this specific area is also having good engineering control. As I say, the room has to be under negative pressure. We need to ensure that we extract air, we filter it, we send it to other location where it's not going to be impacting others. So the third part is more administrative and work practice control. We've seen that a lot also in nursing houses and all senior houses. It's first of all, of course, we will try to avoid any people that are contaminated. We are doing various activities to monitor. So first, the people, when they arrive to work, many of them we will measure, take temperature, and verify if they have some symptoms. So these administrative control allow to minimize exposure. One thing that we have not been successful here in Canada. We had
Dia
many
nak kerja bunda ni bukan main-main.
So I continue. One thing we have not been successful here in Canada is we had nurses going to many different hospitals or different older ages houses. So some of them became contaminated, and since they were not affected to one specific work area, they were spreading the virus in various buildings and various areas. So it took a while before now we ensured that the employees that are working with a certain group of older people, they are not working in various buildings so that they only impacted in one areas, and if eventually they get contaminated, they don't spread it. So the last point typically that we talk in occupational hygiene as a priority is personal protective equipment. But you all know that this became more of the first strategy to fight the COVID-19. Because of the ease of spread of this virus, it was important that we protect either the source or the receptor. So in many cases, we've asked many countries, and beginning from China, but after to other countries, that we saw everybody wearing a mask. And at some point, there are different type of masks. I'm not going to talk too much about that right now. There are surgical masks and there are just regular tissue masks. But from the beginning, just to wear something above your mouth, it prevents the larger particulates to be distributed in the air. And it prevents one of the biggest mean of contamination, which was by large droplets. So there are still many discussions right now about possible potential contamination of people from small droplets and even from talking and breathing. But by putting a face mask or a respiratory mask or even surgical mask, it prevented on both sides either the source or the receptor. So it's the two combined together, it really minimizes a lot the potential for spreading the illness. And it's now mostly recommended by the World Health Organization that both everybody should, when they go in public spaces, they should be, and they are not able to be within 2 meters from others. They should be wearing masks. So I just want to talk briefly, I'm sorry, there's a header here, but according to the International Labor Organization, there's 2.8 million deaths per year related to work. So as of today, we are not yet at 1 million deaths related to COVID, and it's keep on going because it's exponential. But when we see there's already 2.4 million deaths from occupational illness worldwide, and 0.4 deaths due to accident. And this, I think the COVID-19 brought this into perspective. it will make people more realize of the impact of being exposed at work, and not just at work, but also in various places where you are going. So when we look at many others disease or source of fatality worldwide, we can see that occupational injury and illnesses is a lot more than other topics that we talk a lot, like HIV or road traffic or armed conflict. We talk every day on the news, but occupational illnesses and injury, we don't talk that much about that. So I think COVID made a big change about that, that it raised the consciousness of people, and we will have, and that's part of IIHA strategy and objective. We need to keep this momentum, if I could say, to talk to the upper management, to tell the governments and the authorities that now that we've raised consciousness of people about the care of the worker, not just worker population, we need to find ways to protect also the other ones that are exposed to other chemicals or toxic substances. So there's a huge need for occupational hygienists. As you know, I said there's 35 countries with OH association, and we are 195 countries worldwide. So we really need to do more as respect to occupational hygiene. And this is just what is the basic requirement when we work in occupational hygiene. You need to know basic science, math, chemistry, physics, biology, the chemical hazards, some of the physical hazards, just like noise or some other radiation, biological hazard, exposure assessment, legislation, ergonomics. And ergonomics is also important with respect to the impact of COVID, because many people now start to work from home and they are not as well equipped and installed that we can see in other aspects. So I just want to go a little bit faster. With respect to health, we talk often about the individual health. And individual health is typically in the international perspective. It's about the maternity and older people, illnesses, well-being, and all that. And public health is more something that concerns all different type of groups. So it could be exposure to tobacco and homeless people, poverty, alcoholism. And from public health, we see occupational health and environmental health. And you could see that most countries, and even worldwide, we've seen that the public health association and organization took control of the management of COVID. So this is something IIHA and the occupational hygienists will need to get closer also with the public health authority to make sure that we are partners together and we are working together. So when I put names behind people, organization, we see the World Health Organization, which is the leader under the UN. And when with respect to workers' health, it's more with respect to the ILO. And from there, there's a World Federation of Public Health Association with IOA, ICO, INHPO, and various others. So the structure is already there, but there need to be improvement to work more together. The United Nations already established a strategic timeline for 2030, which includes various aspects to either end poverty, but also to improve and protect workers' health. The World Health Organization, we've all heard about what they do and what they did with respect to the response to the COVID. And the ICO, the International Doctors Association, greatly involved, as well as ILO. So when it comes to the Maslow Pyramid, I come to make a parallel about that because, you know, the first thing that we need in life is basically the priority needs, is physiological needs, which is just to drink, to eat, and to find place to be protected, then to rest. And these are basic needs, but we see that the COVID-19 comes with a challenge with this situation, because in many countries, we see that more people who have less protection from social program, and the more disadvantaged people are more impacted by the COVID because they don't have the same level of protection. So From there, of course, there are safety needs, and then there's other needs. But we need to come back to the basic and make sure that at least every people on the planet are able to get their basic needs to be protected. And that's why IIHA co-signed a declaration with IIHA that was presented in June at the World Health Assembly in Geneva, asking the government to ensure that we provide universal coverage to every people in every country, because it's important that people can have access to care and to protection. So we are working at global and large value like that. So let's come back to the basic question, how COVID-19 changed OH. Of course, you've seen this screen. It's the John Hopkins daily update that we see. And on the world scale, we are at 750,000 of fatality. And we see the countries that are mostly impacted are in red. And from that, we see we are now close to 500,000 dead. And my screen is not good because the number of people contaminated is not 5 million. So this is to talk about Indonesia. You're according to the statistic we have right now, there's 51,000 cases and 2.7 thousand fatalities. So we see still that the curve it's on a growth level. It's still going in expansion. It has not flattened yet. It's not going down. So it's something that we really need to talk together and work together to decrease this curve and make sure we protect the workers. So there are different things that we can do. Of course, at this time, laws and regulation is not going to help much because it's most about behavior at the moment. The two main things that we need to do is the education and training and the behavior. So this is how we can better improve the statistic and the results when it comes to COVID. We see that the countries where they made lots of education to people and they provided also lots of information where they could change the behavior of the people so that they don't get mass gathering and they also protect themselves, it's where we get the best results. So otherwise, accountability and penalty, it will not help to reduce these numbers at the moment. So we're always searching for what would have the best impact. And that's why I believe at this stage, the confinement was one of the best way, but we cannot always live in confinement. We still need to work. We still need to get food. I come back to the Maslow Pyramid. The basic needs has to be fulfilled. So we need to eat, we need to rest, we need to drink water and things. So we need to find ways. So that's why I believe at the moment, the protection of everybody with the personal respiratory protection is something we can do to restart getting back to a normal life. So what has COVID changed? It has definitely brought a global consciousness of health and safety. This is something that, health and safety is not glamorous. It's not something we talk on the news as often as it could in the past, unless it's very something that is very dramatic or sensational. Spectacular, like someone falling from a roof. But when someone dies quietly in his hospital room, there's nothing glamorous about that. So we don't hear about this story. So I believe COVID has raised global consciousness. And just like we've seen with Greta and the environment, I believe we will find some global changes in behavior with respect to occupational health and safety and people protection. So as I discussed previously, the importance of behavior, we've seen that it's not something that the government can impact on itself. Of course, the government has to play a major role with all the control, the measurement, the strategies, and the orientation. But at the end, it's everybody that has to play a role. And that's the same thing when it comes to occupational health and safety. everybody in a company will have to play a role to have some success. So it's not just the manager or the boss that has to be good and competent. It has to be everybody who takes a little bit on its own and make sure it makes it gets better. So again, our pyramid, when it comes to personal protective equipment, as I discussed, it's become not just the last resort, but it's becoming more one of the priority. For the occupational hygienist and the occupational hygiene, one of our biggest role, I would say, is definitely with respect to all our knowledge, with respect to engineering controls. So we can definitely help many places and many hospital and older houses to improve their system, their ventilation, their the access and the controls and many things that we have experience in, and we are good to protect others about that. So this is where we should play a bigger role. And so that's what I mentioned. Of course, in the importance of education. So for since for always, I've say education has always been a priority in every country, but occupational health and safety is not something we learn in school unless you go in a master degree or a PhD, but it has to change. We have to start speaking about occupational health and safety with the kids and the younger people, and make sure that we start to talk about the safe behavior and the hazards from their youth. So I'm scared of new experts. That's something I just wanted to say, because with the COVID, we've seen many people that are posting things on internet or different social media, and they are becoming experts. And that's something I'm very scared, and I want to make sure we are not a profession just like a doctor. You have to be under the Association of Doctors, but to be an hygienist, you don't need necessarily to be part of an association. And I want to make sure that we can protect the population from people issuing dangerous statements about how to manage COVID. So I am scared of new experts, and I want to make sure that we are talking loud and clear and say that our voice will be heard, that we have the knowledge to help others as well. So what it has shown us as well is that we can act and we can change. We've seen some illnesses that has been around for 100 years, just like tuberculosis. It's something that if we had put the same energy to fight tuberculosis that we put to fight COVID, it would have been eradicated for 100 years. So we need to learn also from that, and we can see that we can act and we can change if we take the proper resource, energy, and volunteer. So IIHA, what we want to do, just to complete with that, we want to influence, we want to be talking with the big players, because we cannot in each country talk and have a united voice. That's what IIHA is. We are the united voice to talk with the World Health Organization, the International Labor Organization, the World Bank, the Safety and Public Health Association. So we want to be heard, and we want to show them that we are present. As of today, I would say that our presence has not much been successful in a sense that we are still a small player when it comes to this big table and large organization. But these are things that has to change. They have to understand that we have specific training, education, and qualification that we can definitely help to protect others, and not just COVID, but every other workers. So this being said, that concludes my presentation. It was a little general, but I hope you appreciated. Mila, back to you.
Thank you very much, Rene, for your presentation. You highlight the importance of hierarchy of control, and then how we can actually collaborate each other in order to improve the health behavior of our population. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Rene. So I would like to open a question session. So for the participants, if you have any question, please raise your hand. So we have 500 69 participants, so it's quite a lot. I
That's
would like
very good.
Pak Ahmad Sutiawan. I think he raised his hand. Pak Ahmad, do you have something? Do you have any question for Rene? Yeah. Yes. Pak Ahmad.
Next.
I think the connection probably is not that good.
Yes, we hear the few words, but we don't hear a full sentence.
Do you want to type your question in the chat room? So while we are waiting for Pak Ahmad question, if anyone else has any question, please welcome.
Is it possible for me, Bu Mila?
Oh ya, Pak Yahya. Silahkan.
Thank you, Bu Mila. And how are you, Rene?
I am very good, thank you.
Yeah, we met in the first connection in Bali.
Yes.
Yeah, that time it is a wonderful occasion again that we meet you here virtually.
I hope so. I really enjoyed my presence in Bali. I
Yes,
stayed an extra week to visit the island, and it was not enough.
Right. You presented very interesting presentation today, Rene. And then one thing that I'm going to ask you is, do you have any experience or idea how to balance the problem with how to keep health protocol in the workplace and also regarding productivity? It seems these two issues become an opposite issue. How to decline the COVID cases, but at the same time we need to keep the productivity still the same, or yeah, we can't mention going up, but say still the same or not. I mean, the economic perspective is not going down. Is that ring a bell for you?
Absolutely, I understand your
Yes.
question very well, and that's why I presented the Maslow Pyramid also, which are the basic needs that are just to eat and rest, and to eventually then the second needs that comes to work and expand yourself. We're not talking about a gratification of your personal achievement. We're just talking working to make some bread and butter on the table every day that we can survive. So it's important. We cannot just stop economy. It has been stopped for a while already, and some are restarting. And we already start to hear about the second wave. We see some countries that the number were going down and it's going up again. So it's very raising lots of concern. So many industry has implemented good strategies to restart, but it's not applicable to everyone, of course, because it depends on how close people are from another. Let's say in the garment industry, with all the people working in the manufacturer, you can have 100 people in a few thousand square feet. So it's very close to another. So some of the things that I've seen being successful is, of course, we need to be able to encourage people to be sick. And I don't mean encourage people to be sick. I mean encourage people to report, because if they don't want to report because they want to go working another day, if they go working and they are sick, if they go working and they are sick, they will contaminate everybody, and
Exactly.
it will have a dramatic impact. So there has to be a way that there are a little bit of incentive of saying you will not be blamed or not coming to work if you have some symptoms, because we prefer you don't come to work, then you contaminate everybody and we shut the industry.
Kan udah pakai kental manis nih Mbah, 4. Gulanya berapa ya?
So there has to be ways that the people are feeling comfortable to say, I cannot come to work. And there has to be some program or incentive to be able to help them support their family during these times. I know it's not easy what I'm talking about. The second thing, of course, is basic control at the entrance of the company, where we look at people for symptoms and we also measure temperature. I believe it's a good thing, because if people, as I mentioned, they come to work, even if they are sick, we can at least prevent that people from working. The third thing, which I found very good, is a cluster. Many companies are working more and more in cluster. So of course, if they can work from home with computer, it's even better. But many companies, what they do, instead of having 100 people in a room, they will make 10 people in 10 rooms. So like that, if one gets contaminated, it will contaminate 10 people. It will not contaminate 100 people. So like that, by having the same people in the same smaller cluster, we can minimize the potential impact on the industry by having smaller groups. So again, it's not always easy to do that. It requires more control and maybe ventilation, but these are good strategies and ideas to at least try to eliminate. But from the beginning, I believe it's also telling the worker that we need you to report and prevent coming to work if you are sick, because that's how you can. We've seen many plants that had to shut down because everybody became contaminated or too many people.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rene. I think Pak Yahya question has been answered. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Rene.
Very much.
Thank you. Good question.
Yeah, I would like to invite Pak Angga. Pak Angga, do you have any question? Okay. Pak Ahmad, do you want to ask anything again? Because I can see you raise your hand. Okay, so Pak Ahmad asked Rene about the first one. Okay, what is the maybe mitigation from companies that need to do during this pandemic? And then the second question is probably Rene can explain what the activity that has been actually organized by World Health Organization to keep the virus stop spreading, something like that.
Okay, that's a good point. The first one with respect to mitigation in industry, I responded a little bit about that, so I can repeat again. I believe the company has to, it's really on the way that the company looks at their employees. I believe that the employer has to see his employees as partner more than employees. So if the employee come to work and he's contaminated and he can contaminate everybody, he can shut down the company, and both the employer and the employee are going to be suffering. So that's why I believe that the employer has to be in much communication with the employee, and he has to be close to them. So we have seen many job opening for people in occupational safety and health in the last couple of weeks, because every company, they want someone within the company to help manage COVID. And of course, we'd like to expand that to more than COVID and to occupational health and safety at large. but still this closer communication within the upper management and the company is something that is very important. And it breaks the traditional boss and employee. I think everybody has to come a little more closer to be more communicative and to make sure that we work together to prevent potentially very, very serious impact for a company. So other than that, as I mentioned, there are different controls that have been put in place. So taking measurement, temperature at the entrance of the shop, or looking for symptoms, working in smaller cluster, and different approach. But it all has to be looked individually, and every company is different. It depends also, as soon as you can work from home from a computer, I think it should be encouraged. It should be, it's becoming a new, it's gonna become a new way of working, which will make a lot of impact in the next couple of years. We will see more and more people working from home and from computers, but it's not always possible. We have to manufacture product as well. So that's why there are basic hygiene requirements. So ensure people work some respirator, wash their hands or wear gloves, and to prevent the spread. The second question was about the World Health Organization, what they are doing. There's a lot of resource that you can find on the World Health Organization. I'm not sure you will find some in Indonesian language, but they have done many things in many languages. And it's very, very good things. It comes in different ways. First, there are some training that you can attend to help you find some tools about the management of COVID. So I really encourage you to go on the WHO webpage. One thing we could see that WHO has been, of course, the key actor from the beginning with the management of COVID. And some people mentioned that they were too late to respond, that there was a pandemic, and they could have said it earlier in January and not wait till later during the year. But overall, it's something that has never been seen before, something that is that contagious and that much fatality as well to the older people. So it's easy to blame people after, but when you are facing new situation, it's not easy. Overall, I would say that the World Health Organization has been a great leader. They have been great to provide good communication, and they have lots of resources on their webpage that you can definitely find. But overall, what we could see also from the World Health Organization is that when they talk about recommendation, and it has been interpreted or applied differently in each and every countries. And this is something that we will have to learn from also, because there has to be a little more of an international leadership that we can say, this is how it has to be, and this is how it has to be. So it's not just a matter of recommendation. When it comes to international travel or the different, just like in my country, in Canada, it's there's some guidelines that come from the federal government, and then there's some guidelines that come from the provincial government. So it's not unified. Each and every province will come with a different approach or strategy based on their number, their capacity. But this also creates lots of confusion because we don't see the same rules apply from one to another. And that's something that I think that we will have to learn about if we want to fight something that big and that important. We will have to come with some more unified position and go more from instruction more than recommendation. But that's not easy on the international perspective because of the autonomy of each government. But still, it's something that we can observe, that definitely WHO had to challenge the way that they presented their recommendation. But overall, I've attended many courses on their e-learning web, and it was very good material. And I encourage you to get as much as you can knowledge, and they are doing, to my knowledge, they're doing a very good job.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you, Rene. I think World Health Organization has done a lot of things during this pandemic, so we can learn a lot as well from their website. So I think we can encourage our participants to go through the WHO website and then get a lot of information from there. Okay, Rene, I think the time is come to the end. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for sharing with us. Okay, I'm really sorry because you made a mistake during organizing the time with you, because I thought in Canada today is also 27th of June, but now it's still 26th of June.
Everything went fine, Mila. So as long as I could do an interesting presentation, I hope you appreciated and it was useful.
It's very useful.
IIHA is there with you, Mila, and the Indonesian government and the Occupational Hygiene Association. We are there with you. We can provide any guidance and support that you may require, and we are very pleased to have you as a member, and we're looking forward to see you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rene. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Baik, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, presentasi untuk dari Rene Leblanc telah selesai. Mungkin kita akan persiapkan, we will prepare for the next session. Ya, silahkan Pak Stefan. Oke, mungkin kita rehat sekitar 2-3 menit ya. Mungkin ada video yang mau diputarkan dari Pak Stefan, silahkan. Bapak Ibu dari kementerian, kita akan siap-siap untuk sesi selanjutnya, dan moderator untuk sesi selanjutnya adalah Pak Hidayat. Pak Hidayat, waktu dan tempat saya persilahkan ke Pak Hidayat. Oke, silakan Kak Stefan.
Ya, Ibu, di play.
Serta minyak, gas, dan petrokimia, kalibrasi melakukan berbagai kegiatan meliputi pengujian lingkungan, kimia umum, serta minyak, gas, dan petrokimia, kalibrasi, pengujian teknik, mekanik, dan kelistrikan. Layanan monitoring lingkungan Sukovindo membantu menjaga komitmen setiap perusahaan untuk menjaga kelestarian lingkungan hidup. Lingkup meliputi monitoring kualitas air, kualitas udara, hingga lingkungan kerja. Hadir dalam laboratorium migas dan petrokimia yang memberikan data kualitas bahan bakar yang valid dan akurat untuk mendukung efisiensi industri. Menyediakan jasa analisis terhadap parameter fisika, kimia, mikrobiologi,